Thank you very much, Mr President. And I rise as Leader of the Nationals in the Senate to contribute to the condolence debate contributions on the passing of the Right Honourable Doug Anthony, and want to thank Senator Keneally and Senator Birmingham for their heartfelt words and I think some colourful turn of phrase that really did capture Doug, his love of country and his love of his nation and his love of his family. Our thoughts and condolences go to Margot, Dougal, Jane, Larry and their families. It's obviously a sad occasion for the National Party family, as it is for many people across Australia. He was a giant of our party. He just wasn't the Deputy Prime Minister or the member for Richmond, but he very much was the leader of the Country Party and then National Party. Part of an iconic era, really, for our party, post John McEwen, the Fab Four, Doug Anthony, Peter Nixon, Ian Sinclair and Ralph Hunt were a force to be reckoned with on behalf of regional Australia, but also within the coalition. It's fitting to repeat the words of Doug himself when he spoke of the passing of another giant of the then Country Party, John McEwen, in November 1980. McEwen, Doug Anthony said, was a strong man. He was at times a hard, tough, demanding man. He was a man of integrity, a man of honour. He was a powerful negotiator and a persuasive advocate. Mr President, I believe Doug Anthony may well have been describing himself as he was all that. In recent weeks, Doug has been described in many ways: a true statesman, a man of honour and integrity, a humble man, ever positive and ever connected to the Tweed region. The man from Murwillumbah did not set out to become a household name, and it very nearly didn't happen. But Doug Anthony is a household name, and John McEwen played a significant role. He picked him out early in this group of new young men that arrived in Parliament House as a restless young backbencher and provided him, promising him a ministry. And I think that would have been a great loss to the nation had Doug left early. When I was chatting to his son, Larry Anthony, who's also the current National Party federal president, about Doug's experience with John McEwen, he recalled that there was a time Menzies considered promoting a very young Doug Anthony to the Minister of the Navy before McEwen actually intervened. He believed Doug was too young and would not be respected in the portfolio by the Chiefs of Defence, and that he needed time to grow into the role to become everything that McEwen knew this young man would be as a leader. And so McEwen pushed for a portfolio he thought he could thrive in as for Minister of the Interior, and that's what happened. So, because at that time it goes that Doug was actually looking for opportunities beyond politics, because he'd been catapulted, if you like, so early into Parliament following the death of his father. So we can be very, very thankful for Blackjack's mentorship. Doug Anthony was born on New Year's Eve in 1929, and after his schooling at the local secondary college, the King's School in Parramatta and Gatton College in Queensland, he became a dairy farmer. It was his deep and abiding passion. It's all he wanted to do, was be on the farm and obviously to produce milk at that time. That changed in 1957 when his own father, Larry Anthony Sr., a minister in the Menzies government, died, and Doug was elected to the federal seat of Richmond at the by-election at just 27. His parliamentary career spanned more than 26 years, 16 of which involved service as a government minister. Doug held a variety of portfolios, serving as Minister for the Interior, Primary Industry, Trade and Industry, Overseas Trade, Minerals and Energies, National Resources and Trade and Resources, all very hearty National Party, Country Party portfolios there. He was made Deputy Leader of the Country Party in 1966 and at aged 41 became our party's youngest leader following the retirement of John McEwen in 1971, a record that is yet to be broken. He was Deputy Prime Minister to three Liberal Prime Ministers, John Gorton, Billy McMahon and Malcolm Fraser. And during his time as Minister for Primary Industries, then Trade, he drove significant reform, opening up new trade opportunities for agriculture and mining. Just as our current government leadership sets out to expand trade markets amid growing Chinese tensions, it was under Doug Anthony's trade ministership and that of his predecessor John McEwen that laid the foundations to help make this happen. Along with fellow national Ian Sinclair, Doug Anthony, as Minister for the Interior, was one of the two last survivors of Sir Robert Menzies' last ministry. Ian Sinclair, Minister for Social Services in the 10th Menzies ministry, who replaced Doug Anthony as National Party leader, upon his retirement said of his predecessors, and I quote, "Predecessor, as members of the National Party, we're proud of his leadership of the party. Peter Nixon, Ralph Hunt and all those of us who were members of the party remember him kindly for the way in which he led and kept the party together. There is no doubt that as we look back on him, those times were different. But looking at modern Australia, so much of it began in the days when Doug Anthony was Deputy Prime Minister, and so much of all of those things that we cherish today, Doug had a hand in." Australia has a vibrant trade-orientated farm and mining industries today, delivering huge improvements to living standards for all Australians because Doug Anthony saw the opportunities in the 1970s and the 1980s. Backed by his loyal deputy, Sinclair, Doug Anthony oversaw the transformation of the Country Party to the National Party. He said the name change reflected Australia's changing political scene. Announcing it, he acknowledged the importance of farming to rural Australia, saying farmers' prosperity was the basis of prosperity of many rural towns and of industries and employment outside the city. But he stressed the party works for all people outside major capital cities. Former Federal Director of the Liberal Party, Brian Loughnane, described Doug Anthony as a committed coalitionist, and that was on evidence at his state memorial last week in the Tweed, where we saw icons of the National Party, Country Party gather, former state premiers, ministers, former Deputy Prime Minister Warren Truss, alongside our current Prime Minister and former Prime Minister John Howard, who spoke so eloquently of the time he served with Doug in Parliament. It was the likes of Doug Anthony and his colleagues Peter Nixon and Ian Sinclair who demonstrated to both parties what would be achieved through the partnership of two very proud and independent political movements. It has been noted amongst my national colleagues that while Doug Anthony was a committed coalitionist in front of the opposition, he was fiercely committed to the Nationals' cause in joint party room and cabinets. Former Prime Minister John Howard was a minister with Doug under Malcolm Fraser, and he said Doug Anthony's contributions in cabinet discussions were always direct, understandable, uninformed and unshakable. He recalls a particular situation, and he assured me that it had been more than 30 years so he could talk about it. But when at the memorial service last week, where whilst Fraser had been overseas, he'd left Doug in charge. Doug had made a decision around parliamentary salaries and remuneration, which then the opposition seized on, and it was overturned by the PM when he got back. And it was a very furious and forthright Doug that made it very clear to the then PM that if he was left in charge, he expected to be able to exercise that with the full authority. So no one was ever under any doubt about what he thought. But he was very generous and likeable, and there's stories. One of the stories I read was very, very handsome man. So he's on the TV, TV campaigning, and women kissing the TV when he actually came on for his campaign messages, which, is a great thing for, I think, his son, who was door-knocking the seat of Richmond at the time, to hear that he was Doug's son, and that's what she thought of his dad. Anyway, so his affable style endeared him to his colleagues and, most importantly, the farmers and other constituents he represented. Former Leader of the Nationals in the Senate, Senator Ron Boswell, described Doug Anthony as a strong, popular and decisive leader who understood the power he had within a coalition to be wielded only when necessary. Senator Boswell recounted being summoned to Doug Anthony's office immediately after delivering his own first speech in this chamber. Doug told him, "Ron, you got into the Senate on Flo's petticoat tails by being the gopher boy for the Queensland National Party, but that won't cut anything down here. You'll be a one-termer unless you understand Canberra and how the system works to assist rural and regional constituents. Clearly, from his long and very, very successful career on delivering, Senator Boswell paid attention to his leader's words. He represented the Nationals and Queensland for over 30 years. My deputy in the Senate, Senator Canavan, tells a story of Doug Anthony was reading through his papers on a flight to New Zealand, asking his advisors, why am I going over here? I'm checking this agenda, there's nothing on it, there's nothing to discuss. And by the time they landed, Doug had made an addition to the agenda and the Australian-New Zealand closer economic relationship was born. Never one to waste an opportunity, typical of a farmer and a great leader. He regarded the economic relationship as a major achievement. It became a blueprint for future trade agreements. He negotiated with China. He was the first senior Australian minister to negotiate the live sheep trade with the Middle East. Doug built a strong import and export relationship with the emerging industry powerhouse of Japan, building on the strong work of his former mentor, John McEwen. He understood the need for strong rural and regional representation at the highest level of governments and was a fierce advocate for the opening of new trade opportunities. Whether it was in defence of the wool floor price, opposition to increasing the value of the dollar, or his defence, which I think was the only thing he and John Howard ever disagreed on, or his defence of single desk selling, Doug Anthony stuck to his intent to deliver for rural Australia. He was also heavily involved in the development of Canberra. The Anthony family is synonymous with the country and National Party. Doug, his father Hubert Lawrence Anthony and current Nationals federal president Larry Anthony all represented the federal division of Richmond for a combined 67 years. Doug retired from federal parliament in January 1984, returning to the farm, Sunny Meadows, which had expanded beyond the dairy to include now a piggery, cotton and cereal operations. He held several corporate positions in retirement, but around this time of his retirement, that trio of buskers on the streets of Canberra actually adopted his name. Upon meeting Doug via the TV show Video Hookup, Doug Anthony All-Stars member Paul McDermott said he found Doug generous, kindly and accepting. And Doug, with his trademark country smile and tongue firmly in cheek, said of this particular meeting that it was, and I quote, an auspicious occasion. It's the first time I've met these plagiarists who've made my life miserable ever since I retired. I hope to keep it out of the public limelight. What happens? I walk down the street and people say, that's a great band of yours. Was it those iconic pictures of the acting Prime Minister running the country over the summer holidays from a caravan at New Brighton up the New South Wales coast that made him a household name? He did say, when the nation heard I was running the show from my caravan, it sent a message it was Christmas, time to relax, everything was on hold, but also that everything was being looked after. But I think it was also a demonstration to all of us of his commitment to his family in what was an incredible public life. Larry also told a great story that Prime Minister Fraser was very keen to keep in touch with his deputy quite regularly, but the only way to do that was the public phone down the road. So armed with like a stack of 20-cent pieces, he'd send Larry to wait in the line with the locals until it actually got far enough up to get Dad up from the caravan to take the Prime Minister's call until the 20-cent pieces ran out. Got very, very frustrated, shall we say, for Prime Minister Fraser, who then ended up giving the caravan a fantastic upgrade so that it could have a direct line. And what I think that said was that Doug was not for moving in January. And Prime Minister paid attention and got the best of both worlds. So a great example for us all. In 2014, he said, I don't see the purpose in people remembering much, but I don't think he got his wish there because he's very much well remembered by all of us. He was a statesman of the highest degree. He was a giant of our party and he's left a lasting positive impact on modern Australia and in particular regional Australia. Our sympathies are to his family and to the wider country party. Decency, intelligence, humility, generosity. He and Margot retired, the love of his life, retired to the Tweed where he enjoyed listening to her play the piano on the farm, to fish, often with Peter Nixon, to spend time with the family, to support the arts and the wider community. A very proud countryman, and someone we are also similarly very, very proud of. Vale, Doug Anthony.